there's a great example in FEMA. I mean, now they've gotten better since Katrina, but the idea that our basic emergency management functions had been under the leadership of a guy whose only expertise was the Arabian Horses Association, that's a problem. So some of it's just getting the right people in. Some of it is using technology in intelligent ways. One of the things that I'm excited about is to transfer what we've learned from this campaign in using technology into government. I mean, there are huge areas where we can open things up, make things more transparent. I passed a bill working with a Republican, Tom Coburn, called the Google for Government bill, where now you can go to a single site and you can pull up a searchable database of every dollar of federal spending that's out there, which means now you've got a lot greater accountability. Well, there are examples of that all throughout our government that can remove bureaucracy, eliminate red tape, make the whole process more customer friendly. Anybody who's gone to the post office, and wants to buy some stamps, and you're trying to figure out the machine is not working properly, the lines are long. There's no reason why we can't make operations like that more efficient and work better. They do it in the private sector all the time.
I have a national security question for you about Afghanistan. You have argued, as has John McCain argued, now the Bush administration agrees, that we need more troops in Afghanistan. Why do more troops in Afghanistan equal a higher likelihood of success? What's the exit strategy for Afghanistan? How long are we going to be there?
Well, unfortunately, I think Afghanistan is going to be tough. I don't think there is a quick fix to what's happening there, because we have a combination of a government that is not seen as fully legitimate all throughout Afghanistan. It's not particularly capable in terms of delivering services right now. You've got a very powerful narco-terrorism, or an intersection of narco-trafficking with terrorism. Just the terrain is terrible for trying to root out the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And then you've got Pakistan and a border that is porous and very difficult. So it's not going to be easy, but here's what I know, that we can't allow bin Laden and Al-Qaeda to establish safe havens where they are plotting to kill Americans and training troops. And there's no dispute that that's taking place right now. And so we've got to make Afghanistan enough, stable enough, and focused enough on controlling its own borders that we're not seeing the Taliban and Al-Qaeda return. In the meantime, I think the most important thing that we're going to have to do, in addition to having more troops, providing alternatives to farmers for the poppy trade, making sure that services are actually being delivered to the Afghan people. The most important thing we're going to have to do with respect to Afghanistan is actually deal with Pakistan. And we've got to work with the newly elected government there in a coherent way that says terrorism is now a threat to you, extremism is a threat to you. We should probably try to facilitate a better understanding between Pakistan and India and try to resolve the Kashmir crisis so that they can stay focused not on India but on the situation with those militants. We went to Afghanistan first because it is the central front in the war against terrorism. That is where the 9/11 attacks were planned. And today in Afghanistan and the border region of Pakistan, Al-Qaeda and the Taliban are mounting a growing offensive against the security of the Afghan people and increasingly the Pakistani people, while plotting new attacks against the United States. The situation in Afghanistan is perilous and urgent. We must act now to reverse a deteriorating situation. I called over a year ago for additional U.S. troops to be placed in Afghanistan, as well as more non-military assistance and more support from our NATO allies. And I'm glad that there's a growing consensus back home that we need more resources in Afghanistan. We should not wait any longer to provide them. We also need a policy, as both Jack Reed and Chuck Hagel mentioned, that compels Pakistani action against terrorists who threaten our common security and are using the Fatah and the northwest territories of Pakistan as a safe haven. And we have to do this at the same time as we deepen our relationship with the Pakistani people and the recently elected democratic government. Together, I believe we have to succeed in taking the fight to the terrorists in order to protect the American people as well as the Afghan people. And to do that, we're going to have to support lasting stability for Afghanistan and Pakistan, as well as economic opportunity for their people. In Iraq, we reviewed the gains that have been made in lowering the levels of violence thanks to the outstanding efforts of our military, the increased capabilities of the Iraq security forces, the Sadr ceasefire, and the decision by Sunni tribes to take the fight to al-Qaeda. We also noted that the political reconciliation and economic development that's necessary for long-term stability in Iraq continues to lag. There is security progress. Now we need a political solution. The message we heard from Iraq's leaders is that they're ready to do more, and they want to take more responsibility for their country. I believe that the best way to support Iraqi sovereignty and to encourage the Iraqis to stand up is through the responsible redeployment of our combat brigades. I welcome the growing consensus in the United States and Iraq for a timeline. My view, based on the advice of military experts, is that we can redeploy safely in 16 months so that our combat brigades are out of Iraq in 2010. As president, I intend to work with our military commanders to assure that we redeploy out of Iraq carefully with the safety of our troops in mind. And as I've said over the last 2 years, once we redeploy our combat brigades, we're still going to retain a capability to protect our personnel, to target terrorists, and to train Iraqi security forces if there is political progress. And speaking with Afghans and Iraqis, the U.S. military and civilians, all three of us, I think, were struck by both the peril and the promise of this moment. If we responsibly end the war in Iraq, we can strengthen our military, step up our efforts to finish the fight against al-Qaeda and the Taliban in Afghanistan, and succeed in leaving Iraq to a sovereign government that can take responsibility for its own future. In short, we can seize this moment to make America more secure, to focus on broader challenges like defeating terrorism, reversing the spread of nuclear weapons, and achieving true energy security, a challenge that I will discuss, among others, with some of our closest friends and allies in the days ahead.